How to play the Fire King's structure deck. Let's get right into it. So the first thing to mention about this structure deck is that it comes with 44 cards in it, which means that we can and we should take out 4 of them. So my best picks for what cards to take out would be first, Firebrand Hymnist. This card's effect, while it's not awful and it can help us with its special summon, its normal summon effect isn't fantastic. She just mills cards from your opponent's deck. When she's special summoned, she mills cards from your deck. She only works going second and is overall just not that useful, and we don't really want to use up our normal summon on her. Plus she's not even level 4, so it doesn't work with our Link plays either. Xyz plays, I should say. Next up is Royal Firestorm Guards. This card's effect on paper sounds great. When it's normal summoned, you can target 4 Pyro monsters in your graveyard, shuffle them into the deck, and draw 2 cards. Drawing 2 cards is always great, that's like a pot of Avarice, but it's for Pyro monsters. And this whole structure deck only comes with 5 Pyro monsters, including this card and including, of course, Firebrand Hymnist. So this card is... no. If we're taking out Firebrand Hymnist, this card just doesn't work. Even if we don't, we would need to get all of our Pyro monsters in the graveyard in order to get this effect off, and that's just, it's never going to happen, so I wouldn't bother, we're taking this one out. Next up, I would recommend taking out Chain Destruction. There can be some use for this card, but like, not so much. It's not the best card in the game, because normally when your opponent summons a monster, getting rid of the rest of the copies in their deck just isn't really gonna stop them at all. There are some cases, maybe, like, I don't know, if they're running Ra's Disciple or something, you could destroy all the other copies of Ra's Disciple in their deck, or something like that. You could put this in your side deck for tournaments and swap it out in case such an emergency comes up, but I highly doubt it. The final card that we're going to take out, I wasn't entirely sure about this, but I think my best pick would be Fire King Avatar Kirin. Not to confuse it with High Avatar Kirin, alright? We're keeping him in, but we're taking out the original Avatar Kirin. This card's effect, I will say, can be very useful in this deck, especially, like, particularly if you only have 1 copy of the structure deck. If you're running 3, you really don't need Kirin, but if you only have 1, you can get Kirin's effect off. It's not a bad effect. You can use it to put out Garunix in the graveyard to special summon them later, or just get effects off. The big problem with it is that it sends a monster to a graveyard, doesn't destroy it from the deck, unlike other cards. But yeah, there's just better options for searching Garunix, better options for getting everything out, and Kirin is just not that useful. Even before these new cards came out, nobody really ran Kirin because his effect just doesn't really go off that often. It's not fantastic. Alright, so now that we've removed those 4 cards from our deck, let's go over how to play the actual structure deck. What are we going to do here? So, first of all, we have to talk about our Fire King boss monsters. This deck comes with 4 boss monsters in the main deck. The first being Sacred Fire King Garunix. Garunix is the biggest boss monster in the deck. This is the one that we're going to be summoning the most. This is our best one. He can special summon himself from the hand or graveyard when a fire monster is destroyed, which is fantastic, easy to special summon, easy to get out. And his effect is that when he is summoned, we can destroy a fire monster in our hand or deck, which is actually really useful. We can use it to destroy cards in our deck that cause more interruption, or just destroy our Fire King cards to get their effects off after they're destroyed. The next boss monster we have is, of course, Fire King High Avatar Kirin. This card is, again, really, really good, can be very easily special summoned with its own effect, and if it is destroyed, then you can special summon a Fire King monster from your hand or graveyard and then destroy 1 card on the field. So Kirin's effect is really good, both being able to special summon itself easily and get a destruction out as well as an extra monster. Definitely want to have Kirin in our deck. The last 2 boss monsters are, of course, the OG Fire King High Avatar Garunix and Sacred Phoenix of Nephthys. These cards are both fantastic, and they have a very similar effect in which, if they're destroyed, then they get special summoned during the next standby phase, whether that's your standby phase or your opponent's, and then they either, in Garunix's case, will destroy all monsters on the field, and Nephthys' case will destroy all spell and traps on the field. So if you get both of these destroyed in 1 turn, then next turn, special summon Garunix, all monsters gone, special summon Nephthys, all spell and traps gone, and then you have over 5,000 points of damage on board just like that. Very easy OTK. We just need to get out like one more of our boss monsters pretty much, and it's very easy to finish off the opponent with that, and we can even go into our Xyz plays as well. But that will just completely wipe your opponent's board and leave them with almost nothing to do against what you have in store. So that's all for our boss monsters. Obviously the main strategy of the deck is to get these guys out. The main one we want first is Garunix, who can then destroy the other ones straight from our deck and get our real combos going off. Alright, next let's look into the deck's main searches. So to start off, we have Legendary Fire King Ponix. This is one of the newer cards and one of the best cards in the deck. This is our main starter monster. He's going to search for our spell and trap cards, which we will mainly be searching for Fire King Sanctuary. When Fire King Sanctuary is activated, we can activate the field spell Fire King Island from our deck, and Fire King Sanctuary also allows us to perform an Xyz summon on our opponent's turn, which is actually a really fantastic effect. Let's talk about Fire King Island. This is one of the main cards in the deck and an absolute staple in this deck. The field spell of the deck. Its first effect is that during your main phase, you can destroy a monster in your hand or field and then add a Fire King monster from your deck to your hand. This is really, really good with our Fire King monsters. Like, we can destroy a Garunix straight from the hand, get his effect off. We can destroy just like all sorts of things that have effects when they get destroyed. It's just fantastic. And then we immediately get a Fire King monster like Fire King Ponix, or even our Sacred Fire King Garunix is actually the main one that we're going to want to go for. There is a quick combo here that I will just go over very quickly. Fire King Island's effect, if you destroy a Fire King monster in your hand and then add your Sacred Fire King Garunix to your hand, you can then actually immediately special summon Garunix since a monster was just destroyed and he is in your hand, allowing you to bring him out right away even though you just added him with Fire King Island. So that's a really cool combo that we can do with that. There's actually a one card combo with Ponix as well, but we'll talk more about combos in another video, so make sure you subscribe for that. So the second effect of Fire King Island is that it can special summon a Fire Winged Beast monster straight from our hand if we have no monsters, which is obviously really good, gets out our three main boss monsters, Garunix, Nefis, and Garunix again. Our next searcher is Fire King Avatar Baron. When this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, during your end phase, you can add one Fire King card from your deck to your hand. This card, obviously, the effect activates during the end phase, so it's not as good as other ones, but it is very good to extend our combo onto our opponent's turn and just set up plays by adding, by adding something that we can use during our opponent's turn, such as Garunix, or even better yet, our Kirin, who has a quick effect to special summon during our opponent's turn and get that going. Next up we have Onslaught of the Fire Kings. Onslaught of the Fire Kings is a fantastic card, allowing us to immediately special summon pretty much any of our Fire Kings straight from our deck, including our boss monsters, so this is one of the main cards to look out for. Keep in mind though that the monster will be destroyed during the end phase and has its effects negated, so obviously the best cards to summon with this would be our boss monsters, the original Garunix and our Nefis. Summon any of these, they get destroyed during the end phase, and then during the standby phase they just bring themselves back and wipe out the board. Alright, now we're going to look into the rest of our Fire King cards. We have Circle of the Fire Kings, which is basically a reborn for our fire monsters. Special summon target a fire monster you control and a fire monster in your graveyard. Destroy the monster you control, so destroy one fire monster you control, special summon a different fire monster from your graveyard. This works really well with Fire Kings. We can destroy cards like our Garunix or our Kirin to get their effects off, and then special summon another Fire King to the field. It's also a quick play spell, keep in mind, so if you destroy Kirin on your opponent's turn, you can get off his effect as well and destroy one of their cards. Fire King Skyburn is another quick play spell that is really good. Target an equal number of Fire King monsters you control and cards your opponent controls and destroy them. So destroy a bunch of your cards, destroy a bunch of your opponent's cards, and then of course all your cards are going to have their effects go off. Skyburn is really good. This deck is obviously about destroying our opponent's cards, if you didn't pick up on that. So having Skyburn is fantastic. Yeah, we just want a lot of interruption on our opponent's turn, just destroying a bunch of stuff. Speaking of destroying stuff, we next have Echelon of the Fire Kings, which, does it destroy stuff? Yeah, well, it destroys stuff during the end phase, but technically not. I don't know why I said that. But anyway, this card special summons 3 fire monsters, 1 beast, 1 beast warrior, and 1 winged beast, which is the 3 different types that Fire Kings come in. Special summons them from your hand, 1 each from your hand, deck, and graveyard, but their effects are negated and they're destroyed during the end phase. This card is very similar to our Onslaught of the Fire Kings. Special summons Garunix from our hand, deck, or graveyard, along with 2 other of our Fire Kings, such as our Kirin, who can be special summoned as well, or then, I don't know, like a Baron or something to get his effect going off, or even one of our negating Fire Kings. This card is really good for getting out monsters on the field. Again, their effects are negated, so just keep that in mind. I would go for something whose effect has really good value when it gets destroyed during the end phase. Next up, we have our 2 negates, Fire King Avata and Fire King Rangbali. These cards will, Avata can negate monster effects, Rangbali can negate spell and trap effects, so obviously these cards are really good for interruption. Next up, we have Fire King Avatar Yaksha. Yaksha has a fairly decent effect. When it's destroyed, you can destroy 1 card in your hand. When it's destroyed, you can destroy 1 card on your hand or field, which can be your Garunix and Nefez. But obviously, this effect will only go off if you actually have them in your hand or field. So it's a bit situational. We don't want to start with it, but it can be very good for continuing our plays. Finally, for our Fire Kings, we have Fire King Avatar Garunix. This card is not fantastic, but he does have a search effect when he's destroyed by an opponent's card, which is kind of annoying, but that does include being destroyed by battle, which is good as well. And when we're only running 1 copy of the structure deck, this card's good enough. We definitely, we gotta have it. If we can use it, set him down, let him be destroyed. Not too bad, you get a Fire King. Next up, we have a bunch of monsters in our deck that aren't Fire Kings, most of which are useful for rank 8 plays. Burner, Dragon Ruler of Sparks, can special summon Blaster from our deck. We have Coach Captain Bearman, who can be normal summoned without tributing, though his attack becomes half, but he's another level 8 that you can very easily summon. True King Agnimazud, the Vanisher. This guy, again, another level 8, can be special summoned. We have Infernal Flame Emperor, who might also be another card that we want to take out. He's not fantastic because he can't be special summoned, but when it's tribute summoned, you can banish 5 fire monsters in your graveyard and destroy spell and traps on the field equal to the number banished. This effect isn't fantastic, so we might actually put back in our Avatar Kirin and take this out. I like him, he's big boss monster, he works, but he does have to be tribute summoned, so actually, yeah, not that great. Leaving Kirin, why not? Dogoran Madflame Kaiju is obviously a Kaiju, which is always fantastic. Kaijus are used to get rid of our opponent's problematic monsters that you otherwise can't target or destroy. You can tribute them and give your opponent a Kaiju. We have the Blazing Mars, who again can be special summoned from the hand or graveyard, really good. Bonfire Colossus can also be special summoned, level 8. Go for your rank C's plays. He also destroys 2 of your fire monsters, which can get our combos off. Alpha Master of Beasts, another level 8, can special summon himself. Next up, we have our level 4s. We have Coach Soldier Wolfbark, who win. Next up, we have our level 4s. We have Coach Soldier Wolfbark, who can special summon a level 4 Fire Beast Warrior monster from our graveyard. This is mainly to help us go into our rank 4 plays. Same with Spirit of Flames, who can special summon himself. If you have a level 4 monster, you can special summon Spirit of Flames, go into a rank 4, or even your Link Summon. And for our last level 4, we have Fencing Fire Ferret. This card is actually really good in the deck. I would even run 3 of it if we have 3 copies of the structure deck. This card's effect is that if it's destroyed and sent to the graveyard, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls and destroy that target. Now, on paper, that doesn't sound fantastic, but when you remember how much destruction we have during our opponent's turn, with our boss monsters such as Garunix, who can destroy Fencing Fire Ferret from the deck, get his effect off, or our Kirin, who can destroy it from the field as well during our opponent's turn, we can just get a lot of this card's effects off during the opponent's turn, and that makes it really good. Just whenever you would destroy something during the opponent's turn, even from the deck, it's fantastic. You can send Fire Ferret, destroy one of their monsters. Finally, for the monster lineup, we have Droll and Lockbird. This card is fantastic and is probably, like, this card pays for the deck pretty much. Droll and Lockbird, really good card. Not quite as good as an Ash Blossom, but still definitely something that you want, and makes the structure deck worth buying. Alright, before we get into the rest of these spell and traps, let's take a look at our extra deck. We have 2 rank 8 monsters in this extra deck, Coach King, Giant Trainer, and Garunix Eternity, Yang of the Fire Kings. This card is fantastic. Both of these cards are really good, but the main one we're going to go into is, of course, Garunix Eternity, who requires 2 or more level 8 monsters to summon. This card's effect is that when it succeeds summoned, you can destroy all other monsters on the field, which is actually a really good effect, especially when we can special summon him during our opponent's turn with Fire King Sanctuary. If you get this off, then as soon as your opponent special summons a monster, you can go straight into Garunix Eternity and wipe out their entire board of monsters, which is just a really good effect. His other effects are fantastic as well, but that's the main combo that we're going to want to see with this card. For a rank 4, we have Diamond Direwolf, which continues with the destruction effects, enabling us to destroy one of our opponent's cards as well as one of our own, which gets our own effects off, destroys an opponent's card. Rank 4, definitely, not bad at all. And finally, we have 1 Link 2 monster, Hita, the Fire Charmer Ablaze, and she is quite literally very hot. Her effect allows you to basically special summon your opponent's Ash Blossom, right? She targets a fire monster in the opponent's graveyard, special summon it to your field. You could also use this to special summon your opponent's Sinful Spoils monsters, like Diabellstar. Is she fire? Pretty sure she's fire. Yeah, but in most cases, you can use it to special summon your opponent's Ash Blossom. If you have a Synchro monster to add to the deck, that works out well. There's not a whole lot, like, this card doesn't work fantastically if you're only running 1 copy of the structure deck and nothing else. It's not the best. Could give you Tribute Fodder maybe, but overall, it's okay. But in a mirror match, however, if your opponent's also running Fire Kings, this card's really good to have, so, she's definitely fantastic, and it's not like she's taking up any space. We only have 3 other monsters. Alright, let's wrap this up by looking at our spells and traps. So we have Fire Formation Tenki, which is a really good card in this deck, and you should probably run 3 of it if you can. This card can add a level 4 or lower Beast Warrior monster from our deck to the hand. There is not a whole lot of options for that, but there are some good choices. You could add Wolfbark to go into a rank 4. You could add your Yaksha to get his effect off later on, combine it with your field spell, or you could get your Avata and your or your Rangbali, who can have their negation effects going off depending on which one you want. But the main card that we're going to want to add with this effect is, of course, Fire King Avatar Baron, whose effect can search for a Fire King monster during the end phase that he's destroyed. Next up, we have Rekindling. This card is a staple for pretty much any fire deck. This card can special summon as many fire monsters as possible with 200 defense from your graveyard. Your Fire King Avatar Kirin, it can special summon your Burner Dragon Ruler Sparks if you really want. It can even summon your Fire King High Avatar Kirin, who also has 200 defense, which is kind of actually a little bit ridiculous. It can special summon Ponix to get his effect off, and it can special summon both your Rangbali and your Avata to get both of them on the field for negation, which is great. It can summon Yaksha as well, which is, it's good. And yeah, you can just special summon 5 of these all at once with the effect of Rekindling. So Rekindling is a really good card. Unfortunately, the cards will be banished during the end phase, so keep that in mind. This is mainly used for an OTK to get a bunch of monsters out and then destroy your opponent's cards. And just, go for big damage, basically. After a Garunix effect goes off, you can, destroy your monsters on your field. Rekindling can bring them all back. Go for the OTK. We have 1 copy of Herald of the Abyss in this deck, which is really good for a side deck, but since we don't have a lot of other options, it's good enough for the main deck. This card can be used to get rid of our opponent's hand traps, which is kind of nice, and it can just be used to get rid of, any key cards that our opponent would use. That that they're running. That's why it's better for the side deck, is so you know what your opponent's running, and then this card comes in a lot handier. Trade-In is a really good draw spell. This deck comes with a lot of level 8 monsters for the rank 8 play, so Trade-In is definitely a good option. Dark Hole is fantastic, destroys all our opponent's monsters and destroys all of our monsters. Our monsters will get their effects off, the opponent's monsters will all go to the graveyard. Fantastic card, love to see it. For our traps, we have a Flameville counter. When a spell or trap is activated, you can banish a fire monster with 200 defense from your graveyard to negate the activation and destroy the card. This is a good counter trap for fire. This is a good counter trap for fire decks. Only works against spells and traps, which is a bit unfortunate, not against monsters, but can't ask for too much. I just went over which cards have 200 defense, so banish any of them from the graveyard and negate a spell or trap. Spiritual Fire Art Kurenai is not the best card in the game, but it's decent enough in this deck. This card can kind of work like our Gustav Max, right? Inflict 2,000 damage to our opponent pretty much by tributing a fire monster you control and inflict damage equal to its attack to your opponent, which is not a bad effect, especially if you're going for the Nefis Garunix combo. All you'll have on your field is Garunix and Nefis. If you then set this card afterwards, you can activate it during the opponent's turn, tribute your Garunix to deal another 2,700 points of damage, which is almost enough to win. I think you would need a little bit more damage, but it's still a pretty hefty amount and could definitely finish off your opponent if you don't quite have the OTK. Power Sink Stone is very similar to Skill Drain and doesn't affect our deck very much at all, so this could on its own be a win condition, which is fantastic. Infinite Impermanence, obviously one of the best negates in the game, can be activated straight from our hand if we have no cards, can be set to negate a spell and trap as well in the same column. Impermanence, very good. Solemn Judgment, again, fantastic. When opponent would be summoned or a spell and trap is activated, pay half your life points, negate the summon or activation, just negates a whole lot of stuff, and it's just a really good card. Torrential Tribute, same as Dark Hole, destroys all monsters on the field when a monster is summoned. This is really good to stop our opponent's plays, get rid of all their monsters, and of course, get off our Fire King's effects. So that is how to play Structure Deck Fire Kings. If you like this video, do be sure to let me know, leave a like and a comment, and also comment if you have any other questions about this deck. I will be very happy to answer them as soon as I see the comment. I'm normally pretty quick at responding. Hopefully it just depends what part of the world you're in. But in any case, yeah, let me know what you thought of this deck. Let me know if you want to see more videos on this deck. Next week I will be doing 3 copies of the Structure Deck. We'll combine 3 copies. Can we get it in focus? Thank you. We'll combine 3 copies of this deck into one very epic, very powerful deck. The Fire Kings is honestly, it's quite strong. It's a very strong deck. The main goal of this deck is, of course, interruption and destruction. Get a bunch of cards during your opponent's turn that can interrupt their plays and just destroy everything. So all the negates that come with this deck is also really good. Interruption, it's fantastic. But yeah, there's a lot of destruction in this deck that can really just help to control what your opponent is doing and stop them from playing. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. My name has been Senkara, and until next time, see ya.